As a communication professional, I'd like to think that I do it right all the time, and I don't. So I want to take a look at some techniques that we might use to help improve our listening competence by taking a look at a couple of elements that maybe keep you from being as effective as you might be. So we're going to look at selective listening. We're going to look at eavesdropping, pseudo listening, aggressive listening, and narcissistic listening. I think when I think of selective listening, one of the things I think about is teenagers. And I'm sorry, I'm sorry if you're a teenager, but the idea of trying to communicate to somebody, I guess I think about like taking out the trash or tasks maybe the parent wants the kid to do, and they just don't hear it. And it's like, I just didn't hear it. And I think it's maybe not intentional, or maybe it is intentional, I don't know. But when we look at the idea of selective listening, the idea of salience comes up again. So how important it is to you. And there's the element of, dismissing information that might be important. So there might be elements, certainly if you're working with a boss, if your boss tells you something and you're not necessarily giving your full attention, there's information you might miss. I wrote this misinformation thinking, yeah, you might miss information. That's important. That's an important element. So it could cause problems with your job. It could cause problems in your relationships if you're not doing a good job of really listening to and paying attention to everything that's being communicated to you. The truth is, it's natural. There's a certain amount of, if you don't consider it to be really important to you at that moment, it's not on the forefront of your thoughts, it's going to be kind of cast to the side. So it's kind of natural that that happens. But I think it's important to make sure that you're actually shifting your attention and focusing on what you need to focus on. So how do we change this? Well, you might broaden your range of what you're paying attention to. And it may not be something that you're able to do all at once, but something that you maybe work on over time. And certainly if you're looking at going into the work environment, or you're in a situation where this is causing you problems, really, be intentional, focus on things, really see if you can use one of the different listening types where you might listen for more for information, for content, get to gather the information you need to be successful. So moving from that one, eavesdropping is paying attention to information that is not yours to listen to. So it might be somebody's private conversation. Maybe they're talking on the phone. Sometimes, unfortunately, people talk on the phone in places where they shouldn't talk on the phone. I know there have been situations where maybe I was in the restroom and someone was having a conversation. Now, clearly, I'm only hearing one side of the conversation. Well, actually, they've been on speakerphone before. So I'm hearing both sides of the conversation, and that's kind of weird to me that someone would, have their conversation show up like that. So I think, yeah. So challenges you might have is that you're only getting part of the conversation, so you're really not even hearing the whole conversation. So there's pieces and background information that you may not even have that may be important to have in order to understand fully the information that's being provided. So there's lots of reasons why people do this. Maybe they're in a personal or professional situation where there might be incriminating information. Maybe they're suspicious of what's going on with the other person, so they're intentionally listening. But when we look at that, there's challenges to doing that. First of all, it's inappropriate. I mean, I have a lot of people's secrets just because of the kind of work that I do. I don't really need anybody else's information. But it's really not appropriate. It's not appropriate to listen in on somebody else's conversation because it's something that they're choosing to share with somebody else, and it's disrespectful. It's unethical. And again, there's a lot of times because you're not getting the full, you're not part of the conversation, you're not getting all the information. So there might be an opportunity to misunderstand. It can, if somebody sees you doing things like this and overhearing and listening in on their conversation, they might not find you very trustworthy. They might find that hurtful, so they may not choose to be in conversation with you. Personally, I probably, if I found out someone was eavesdropping a lot of my conversation, I probably would not trust them. So, yeah. Pseudo conversations is pretending like you're listening, but not really listening. And this really does block you from understanding what's going on. Again, unethical. The person can be considered to be uncaring, disrespectful, dishonest. I think the way that we work around this is really making sure that you're being intentional with what you're doing. You're being intentional about how you're communicating, making sure that the other person feels listened to. Yeah. Aggressive listening. This is a person that's listening with the intent of attacking. They're listening for challenges. They're listening for the person to say something wrong. They may, they're talking in, the provocation idea is happening online where someone might be purposefully looking for someone to say something wrong and causing challenges and challenging what the person has to say. If you're really having issues with that, it's really not a great place to listen from. It's not pleasant to interact with somebody that's listening aggressively. So maybe note why you're having this problem and maybe seek professional assistance. I've had this happen to me as a speaker, and people that are there just trying to challenge you, and what it's doing is it's derailing the conversation that the speaker is trying to have. So if they're trying to communicate a message, they're not able to finish their message because there's this interruption or this person trying to attack the information that's being provided. So not cool, not really a great way to interact with someone. The last one is narcissistic, and unfortunately I'm willing to bet that many of you have dealt with this. This would be a person that's self-absorbed and continually redirects the conversation back towards themselves. I'm sure I've guilty of this, where maybe something was going on, and if I was feeling insecure, perhaps, I might be more likely to seek attention. And, listening to How to Win Friends and Influence People by Carnegie, he says the way, really people want to talk about themselves. That's their favorite topic, is talking about themselves. So as a great speaker, one of the things that you do is you really encourage people to tell you about who they are and what they do. And I think being on that end might be a great way to sort of shift it. Be curious about other people. Sometimes I forget to ask, well, tell me about you. If they ask you about yourself, tell me about you. What is going on in your situation? So really shifting that around, maybe answering the question briefly about yourself and then shifting it, allowing the focus to change to somebody else, asking good questions, having positive feedback and nodding and really interacting with the other person. So creating this just really increases the communication competence of a person so that they feel more, so that other people really feel like communicating with you, and you're going to get more information that you really want to have. Thank you.